All right, man. So we just did a video the other day about some pretty crazy numbers out for vice presidential candidate Tim Walz. So what we saw where we saw these numbers here, where we looked at Tim Walz's net favorables. So Redfield and Wilton, a really low tier pollster, they're D-rated, actually came out with some more swing state favorability numbers. So swing state favorability numbers are actually what matter because obviously the election is going to be decided by those swing states, right? But what's crazy is there's been this massive gain in swing states, especially important ones. So like you could see in Minnesota, he went from plus 15 to plus 19. This is from August 15th to 28th. Then Michigan plus 14 to 16, so a boost in Michigan. Wisconsin plus 6, almost doubles his numbers in Wisconsin. GA, he stays the same. Nevada nearly doubles. Pennsylvania plus 7 to plus 12, pretty close to doubling. And again, the Rust Belt's going to be huge, right? And a lot of Kamala's numbers are they're sort of in a situation where they're kind of like stuck a little bit, I would say, is how I would kind of describe them. If we kind of look at, for example, like the Michigan numbers, for example, if you check out, who's ahead in Michigan, you can see, those are the 2020 numbers, and you can see the numbers here, right? 2.4. She was all the way up at 3.4, and 3.3 back in 21, and she was basically there already on the 10th. So she's been stuck for a while. We could look at Wisconsin, for example. She's up 3.2 right now. Suspiciously, somehow, we definitely know that Michigan is bluer, but somehow they're polling the highest, similar to what happened in 2020, by the way. It's obviously a mirage. But she was up 3.4 back on the 12th, and she's beneath that right now. So she's stuck, and so the Rust Belt numbers are kind of lagging a little bit. And, we could look at the Pennsylvania numbers as well. You can see this, she's up 1.2, but she's been up by above 2 since, August 10th. So she's been stuck for 20 days, basically. It's pretty crazy. So these kinds of numbers can really end up, saving her, these kinds of favorables. Just unfathomable, and he's maintaining. He went down by 1 in Arizona, but being able to maintain because they've set this war against Tim Walz, Fox News and everyone, they're calling him Tampon Tim, communist, etc. It looks like it's calming down a little bit, but this is already reported on by me, right? There's even more coming out about Tim Walz, okay? So we got some more opinion polling. This has come from IPSOS ABC, 2496 adults, 823 to 27. The craziest part about this is we have an injective one-to-one comparison that we're able to make with this from the same pollster, and you'll see that in a second. So we see is, this opinion of Tim Walz, favorable 42%, unfavorable 31%. A massive 11-point double-digit margin that he actually is favorable, which is insane. Think about that, man. 11% margin favorability is unfathomable. I don't think you understand how insane it is for a national candidate who's the vice presidential nominee. And you can really see J.D. Vance right here, right? So it says J.D. Vance favorable is 32%, unfavorable is 44%. So he has a higher net unfavorable margin than Walz has favorable. So, he's negative 12, right, underwater. Walz is plus 11, you can see. And obviously this is the main comparison you want to make because obviously they're the vice presidents, so they're obviously the ones that are squaring off against each other. J.D. Vance's favorables are absolutely horrible. Walz is the complete opposite. But we also, what's really cool about this is we actually have a direct one-to-one comparison that we can actually make here. So check this out. So is actually going into the PDF itself, into the PDF file itself. And so we can see here is, this question, it says, overall, do you have a favorable or unfavorable impression of Tim Walz / J.D. Vance as a person? And so for the first part, it shows Walz 827 and 813. So we can see for the favorable, for the net favorable, it's 42. And that is composed of 22% who said strongly favor him compared to 20 who said somewhat. And then for the unfavorable, it's 31, of which 11% say somewhat and 20% say strongly. And then no opinion is 27, so 4% more formed an opinion. And we can compare that to 2 weeks prior, where it was net favorable was 39 was how much total favorable. And that was composed of 19% saying strongly and 20 saying somewhat. And then unfavorable was net 30, with 10% of that saying somewhat, 20% saying strongly, and no opinion having 31. So you can see his numbers have boosted in the same exact pollster. So his strongly went up by 3. So a lot of people, I guess, are getting really attached to him even in between those 2 weeks. A lot of people are really getting interested by him. Obviously, he's a very real dude and down to earth and that kind of person. And so I think a lot of people are latching on to him likely. And so you can see a 3% rise is definitely pretty massive. So, 4% no opinion converted in between those 2 weeks. And you can see that, it's 3% of those are saying, oh, okay, well, I actually strongly favor now, right? So, and those weren't somewhat's being converted to strongly favored. So that means that there has to be these people who sort of are becoming that way. And then obviously we can, see Vance's numbers here as well, right? So they look kind of similar to being the same, basically. But something interesting that might also be happening if we take a look at the aggregator, I might have a hypothesis on my hands here. So what we might have seen is, because what looked like was happening was in the polls, that the Fox News attacks and all that stuff were actually working with Republicans. And so you could see it even got really close here to the point where it was only like 3 points. We're at a point now where it's like 4.2 in the aggregate favorable. But what's pretty interesting is we can see, like, sort of in the more recent polls, he's kind of bouncing back. So +6 favorable, +8. And by the way, Fabrizio is a Republican pollster, I think maybe even like employed by Trump. Big Village says +8. YouGov says +3. Quinnipiac +8. This is +1, +6. +5, +7. And then you have like some of these kind of older polls from a little bit ago now. +4, +2, +4. Like a tie here, a +3, a +5. So Big Village, right? Big Village jumping from +5 to +8. So I'm thinking what might have happened is there might have been a surge in between that time where there was a bunch of unfavorables coming from the Fox News propaganda hitting with some of the Republican diehards. And what I think might actually be happening now is that might have subsided by now. And now, like, there might be more people converting to his direction, or maybe even some people deconverting. But you can even see with the Big Village poll, right? August 23rd to 28, it goes +8 favorable. And then in the last one that we saw, it was only +5, right? And so between them, what you can see is the favorable went up, right? The favorable went up and the unfavorable went down. So there might have been some noise there, or some kind of shift there, where there was this large sort of increase in unfavorability that occurred due to the Fox News propaganda campaign. And then now maybe that's starting to subside. So maybe we'll call that sort of the subside theorem, we'll say. Maybe there's kind of something going to happen here because you had some of these higher polls and then there's some of these lower ones, and now it kind of seems to be going back. So hopefully his numbers continue to bounce back further, because we can see like the Big Village poll went up by 3. We can see that the numbers are going up in a couple of point margin. Your favorability is absolutely massive. It's huge. It can actually even determine elections and things like that. If you don't have a certain favorability, can really hurt you. Favorability, especially in like a lesser of two evil situation, can really help you as well. Getting over that 50% mark is really huge. So I would love it if Walz was able to get over 50. Kamala, it has just barely dipped under. Unfortunately, she's at 48.9. I really hope she can get to over 50, because if so, you might be able to guarantee her the election if Trump gets below a certain number. If Trump can get down to like 42, his favorables are really high right now. I don't know why they're so high. They should be around like 42. I don't know why. I think the shooting and then the Biden stuff boosted him in favorability. You can kind of see like this weird boost here where he just like spikes. He just spikes like in late June, which is correlated with those times. And then his numbers start going up. And he just hasn't gone down really fully since. So hopefully he gets down. If Trump gets down to like 42 and then Kamala's above 50, she has to win the election, I think, because that hasn't happened, I think, in recent history. Trump had worse favorables than Hillary, but Hillary wasn't over 50. So I really want her to get up, and hopefully Walz continues his gains, because Walz is still building walls and kind of growing, which is pretty crazy.